It's time to talk about the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Oh, okay. I said I wasn't going to do another big series for a while, but I'm a fucking liar, okay? I'm a big liar. So we got 8 films to do. Let's get to it. I already did Freddy vs. Jason during my Friday the 13th run through, so if you're looking for that, there it is. Now let's talk about the original 1984 Nightmare on Elm Street, directed by Wes Craven. Wes Craven is a director that I am kind of 50-50 with. I really like some of his stuff, like Shocker, People Under the Stairs, this. And then there's a good amount of stuff of his I do not care for, like, Hills Have Eyes, and Deadly Blessing, and Deadly Friend, anything with deadly in the title. Serpent in the Rainbow. I know, people love that movie. I can't get into it. I've tried it numerous times. I've tried it maybe 3 or 4 times now. I just don't get it. It doesn't work for me. And Red Eye, and Music of the Heart, Vampire in Brooklyn. I'd love to see Vampire in Brooklyn again, because it's been a long time. I'm sure I'd probably find it funny now. But let's not talk about those movies. Let's talk about this movie. This has such a great opening. Not my favorite in the series, but what a wonderfully dirty, grimy feel in the opening. Just this, I don't know what that little like box is, like that they shot it in. I like the choice though, instead of the full frame. It's just, I don't know what it is about that. I do like that they kept it in a smaller box on the screen. Just watching Freddy make his glove, I mean, that's such an iconic weapon. It's probably the most iconic weapon in horror history. So to start the series with us seeing him make the most iconic weapon in horror history is a great way to start this. I mean, they didn't know what a popular thing this was going to become. But the foreshadowing, the foresight is what I meant to say, was great there, because yeah, I love to see it made. It's kind of like the deleted scenes from Star Wars where Luke is making his lightsaber. You didn't really get to see a lightsaber being made until the Clone Wars TV show. You always just had one assembled, and it was very cool to see one being put together. So I love that we get to see Fred Krueger, which is how he is credited in the opening credits of this movie. I think it's interesting that throughout almost the entire film, they call him Freddy Krueger, like she calls him Freddy like 5 different times in this movie. They do call him Fred Krueger as well, but Freddy obviously stuck. And Lynn Shane. Now, Lynn Shane is, the teacher in her class, and that's how I've always known her. Up until the Insidious franchise, she was always the teacher in Nightmare on Elm Street. When I saw her in like Kingpin and, There's Something About Mary and plenty of other things. I mean, Lynn Shane's had an incredible career. But to me, always, and still to this day, when I see it, I don't know. So now I'm kind of like, oh yeah, Insidious. But I guess up until then, Lynn Shane was always this character. She's in it for like 2 minutes. But when I first saw her in, I think Kingpin was first, or There's Something About Mary. No, There's Something About Mary was first. Whatever. The first time I saw her, I was like, isn't that the teacher? And people were like, who? And I'm like, there's this teacher. And they're like, you even remember a character like that? It's like, dude, it's Nightmare on Elm Street. Of course I remember the fucking character. I remember every damn part about that movie. And then the obvious person here is Johnny Depp, which he's fine in the movie. I mean, it definitely doesn't show any range out of him. I wasn't watching this like, wow, that kid's going to be a star. He's going to blow us all away one day. Like, he's fine. He's adequate. Like, he's a good-looking kid who gives an okay performance. He's not amazing. He's not terrible. He's just adequate. And I didn't see anything in it to just be like, oh, yeah, he's going to be big. He's going to be a big deal one day. And looks, yeah, he's a good-looking guy, but fuck, everyone in movies are. But a character that I don't feel like gets enough attention here in this movie is Tina, because of my huge love for Better Off Dead and her character Beth in that movie. I can quote that shit all day. But seeing her in this movie, she's instantaneously Beth. So there's character. I mean, that happens with any movie, or any actress or actor that you have, where it's just like they become one role to you for life. And this chick, as much as I love Nightmare on Elm Street, she'll always be Beth first to me. Probably because, I don't know, I grew up on that movie and watched it more than I watched this one, I suppose. But yeah, that's Beth. That ain't Tina. The relationship that she has with Rod is interesting, because it definitely seems like they have a very rocky relationship where they're fighting all the time and whatnot. But we almost get this sense that there's something a little more sinister going on, like he may be abusive in a way. I mean, maybe not, I don't know. I was trying to really pay attention to this time, because she is into the bad boy, and when he's pulling her into the bedroom, she's like begging her friend, but in a playful way. But I don't know, there's something about it that I almost take seriously, like, and of course that plays into the film later when people are accusing him of murdering her, like, you guys used to fight pretty hard. I don't know. I wonder if it ever tipped its toe into the physically abusive side, but it's a movie. I don't know. When you watch a movie so many times, you start to really break down every single stupid little thing. Love the shot of Freddy coming out of the wall. It's just a great effect. I mean, one of my favorites in all of Nightmare on Elm Street series is just when he pushes his, like, you get like the hands first and then like the face and like the whole body comes out of the wall. It just looks fantastic. It's such a great shot. Honestly, I mean, it could possibly be my favorite shot in the entire film. Like, freeze frame that and post it, put a poster and put it on my wall. It's probably my takeaway shot. That's my poster shot. I think every movie should have a poster shot. Like, what's the movie? What's the frame in the movie that you want mounted on your wall forever? That's my poster shot in the movie. What's your poster shot in this movie? And speaking of great scenes, I mean, pretty much the most iconic scene, I would say, in this movie is Tina's death. The bedroom scene where she's being drug up onto the ceiling and pulled around the room. And what a fantastic achievement. I mean, this is a pretty low-budget movie, and he had to get very creative and clever with a fairly minuscule budget to be able to pull off something like that. I mean, they had to have basically a rotating room to be able to do that, and that's some impressive shit for a low-budget horror like this. And it's just extremely effective. But it does beg the question, within the movie, there's some rules that are kind of set up a little bit, and of course they get played with here and there. But Nancy wants Glenn to wake her up, at a certain time, if she starts to get crazy or whatever, and she sets the alarm. And there's other times in the movie where she's able to wake herself up, like when her mom comes to the door, when she's in the bathtub, and so on and so forth. When Rod wakes up and Tina's being attacked, he cannot wake her up to save his life. Like, he is shaking her, he is freaking out, he cannot wake her up. So why can't Tina wake up? Like, once you're being attacked, but Nancy's being attacked, and she's able to be pulled out by her alarm clock, not a person shaking her and being like, what the fuck, like in her face. She wakes up purely from an alarm, and she's being attacked by Freddy. He's got her in his clutches. So that doesn't really apply there. So, I mean, it's a movie, I know, trust me, I get that. But if we're just talking about the movie itself and I'm trying to figure out the story, when I was watching it this time, I was like, why wasn't Rod able to wake Tina up before she finally, like, he ripped her open? Once she was slashed down the chest, she was finished. But he tried to wake her up well before that, 20 seconds, 15 seconds before that. Why did she not come out? Was she just too deep asleep? I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Love that John Saxon is in this. He's in so many great freaking horror movies. I could just list 20 off the top of my head. The Tina in the body bag scene, great shit, man. I love the visuals of that. It's so creepy. It's so wrong. I just love her getting dragged down the hall, the way like her body's on the ground, then her feet come up and it just slides away and there's like a blood trail. Great choices. This was Wes Craven at the very, very top of his game. He was on the ball through this entire film. It is really a fantastic film. The scene where Nancy is pulled down into the water and we see her body. I haven't watched a lot of behind the scenes documentaries, so I will eventually, but that had to be a body double. I'm not saying it wasn't her. I'm not saying she doesn't have the body to pull that off, but it's just like we saw her naked body and I was like, is that really her? I doubt it. And the music in this movie is awesome. I mean, it's just got through. I think that's pretty much the case with any classic. I think that's what also helps propel it into that classic plateau, like that area where you just get to and you're just a classic forever, like a Halloween or something. The music is a big part of that, and this movie has awesome music. When Freddy is chasing after Nancy in her house and he comes through the little window, that scene, like he has Tina's face on his face, like a Tina mask. That's awful. It looks so stupid. That was a bad choice. There's very few bad things in this movie, but to me, was that supposed to look like Tina? Was that like he does a Tina voice kind of thing and it's like his face and it's clearly him. Like it doesn't look anything like her at all. It just looks like a little rubber, like it doesn't even have any facial features to it. It's just like a flat piece of rubber with like 2 holes cut in it. It's bad. It's bad. I laugh at it every time. I was like, were we supposed to, like, because that scene should have been her friend's face and then he like pulls the face off and it's Freddy under it. That would have worked. But it's so clearly Freddy, like clearly, that I don't even understand the purpose of the scene. Like using her voice is bad enough. Like you could just be like, I'm manipulating you and then jump out of the corner and be like, I'm Freddy, just kidding. Like you thought that was your friend. Why did we have to see the face? Anyway, I'm not going to harp on it, but anybody else think that's really terrible? It's one of the only moments in this movie I just think is dreadful. And the scene where Glenn is in her room and she's talking to him and then the mom comes up and she knocks and she like, oh, and she like puts him out the window. Like she clearly closes the window. And then when she looks back over at the window, it's wide open. And then we see a feather drift by. And I think that's like our first indication that, you know, because he's like ripping up the shit when, you know, he's ripping up her pillow, he's ripping up everything when she was being attacked by him in the dream. And then we see a feather fly by. And I think that's supposed to be like a little nod to us, like to get it like, oh, wait, something came through from the dream. It's just real quick. It's really subtle. You miss it if you blink kind of thing. But I think that was a really cool nod. But I was laughing because I was like, that window was closed. And it's a weird cut too. She's like, Glenn? And then it just cuts to them running into the hospital. Like, was that supposed to be a scene? Was it supposed to, like, did he come out? Did they do like a false jump scare or something stupid? And then Wes was like, nah, that's stupid. Let's cut it out. Because it's a weird cut. It just, I don't know. It doesn't feel right. I also like the little nod to the fact that she's a 20-year-old playing like a 15-year-old when she looks in the mirror and she goes, God, I look 20. She is 20. And the sleep doctor in this movie is the voice for Roger Rabbit. I think everyone knows that. But he's also, even cooler in my opinion, Roger Rabbit's amazing, don't get me wrong. He's Wally from Demon Knight. Who doesn't love Demon Knight? I fucking love Demon Knight. And I eventually am going to start doing, just randomly, I'm going to start doing all the Tales from the Crypt episodes, just one by one, just like in between movies. I want to do that to eventually all 3 of the, or 4 actually, should I say, of the Tales from the Crypt movies. Anyway, but I love that movie. And when I saw him, I was like, Wally! There's another character right there. He's always Wally to me. But we don't see his face in Roger Rabbit. I guess if it was just him dressed like a rabbit in that movie jumping around, he'd probably be Roger Rabbit to me. But it was a cartoon, so I can't really do that. And I kind of, I feel really bad for the mom in this movie of Nancy. I don't know why. I don't know. She seems so racked with guilt, and she seems depressed, and she genuinely seems to love her daughter. Like, she murdered this dude for her kid. Like, she murdered this dude for other people's kids. She did the right thing. Like, this guy was a child murderer, and she did what I think is the right thing. Like, they let him off on a technicality, and they chased his ass down, and they fucking burned him alive. Good. But, I don't know, like, throughout the movie, I genuinely feel awful for the woman. She's, like, drinking her sorrows away, and I get it, like, it would be better if she didn't have the crutch to fall back on, but hey, we're not all perfect. But I did. Anybody else feel bad for her? I did. I sure as fuck did. And in this movie, it's more he's a child murderer. I don't know. I don't remember all the sequels perfectly. I'm really looking forward to going back and watching like 4 and 5 because I don't remember 5 especially. 5's the one I know the least. Dream Child. I am not. My memory is very skewed on that. So I don't remember how much they hint at the fact that he's like a child molester. Because I know in the remake that's the direction they go with it, like completely. And when I was watching it, I was like, I don't remember the molester thing. I think that it might be slightly implied. But child murderer in this one. In the first one, it is just straight up child murderer. No funny business, like molesting at all. So that might have been added on in the later sequels that I'm not remembering. But I was watching this time. I was really trying to pay attention to what they were saying. It was just straight up child murderer. And how did, like, another rule that's kind of, I don't understand exactly is like, how was Freddie able to call her on the phone and start screwing with her house while she was awake? Like, in the next movie, Freddie is starting to bleed through into reality because he is able to use Jesse as a conduit. Now, if he's able to do that in that movie, maybe he's able to do that slightly through Nancy. But excusing the next one, because that one wasn't official yet, that wasn't part of the series yet, and this one was the only one that existed when it was made. We can't go off of that, but while watching this movie and knowing this was the only one that existed at the time, I feel like they were playing with their own rules and not playing by them a little bit, because he was only supposed to be able to get you in your dreams, but then he started to kind of bleed through into our world before Nancy grabbed a hold of him and brought him back. So I thought that was interesting that we could see him manipulate the phone. I mean, you see a little mouth on the end, a tongue sticks out, the whole thing, and it's like, how was he able to do that? Or was Nancy's mind starting to get to her? She hadn't been to sleep in so long that she was hallucinating, and her fears were bringing, Freddie even more into reality until she actually brought him into reality. So did those things actually happen, or was she hallucinating? So yeah, me thinking way too much. I like that she has like a Home Alone moment where she goes and she sets up traps in the house for when Freddie comes in. She's just not completely unprepared. She actually goes and takes the time to, kick some ass, do some collector type traps for him to step across. More like Macaulay Culkin's Home Alone than The Collector. They would have been way more brutal if it was that. And I like that Freddie is actually afraid in this for a moment. And that, I don't know, like once she realizes that he is shit to her, he's like, what? And like the way he reacts, he's actually frightened. And I like that you get to kind of see the more human side of him as he sees that he's losing some of his power. Oh, that was cool. And I like that the parents get to see the shit too. Like a lot of the times in these movies, like nobody else sees it but the primary cast, and then everybody in the secondary, especially like parents, if the antagonists in the film are children or kids or teenagers or something, the parents never actually see it and they kind of just got to take their word for it. But in this one, her dad, John Saxon, he sees her lower down into the bed, that really weird shot of her, like it's a weird looking skeleton thing, it doesn't look very good. It's a cool shot, don't get me wrong, but the body itself looked not great. But he sees that happen. And he's like, what the fuck? And like the cop comes in and he's like, whoa, we need a minute. I got to process some shit real quick. He like shuts that guy out. I love that stuff. And talking about another terrible like body in this movie, when Freddy pulls her mom through the window and it's so clearly a mannequin, it's bad. You can see like her arm is a mannequin arm. It's bad. It's really bad. But it's low budget. And that's why I'm saying, like, taking into account that pulling through the window thing when it's clearly a mannequin, that then makes the room where Tina's being pulled around it even more impressive. Or maybe they just spent all the budget they had on that scene and they were like, I don't know, let's just go grab a mannequin from a store and pull her through a window. We don't have any other way to end it. And did that ending happen? I mean, in the next one, and I'm going to kind of get into that in the next one, but in the next one, they say that the mom killed herself in the living room. He pulls her through the window into the living room. So did it just look like, did he cut her up in there? And then they just drove off in that car? Like he bled then into the real world? He's still there? Like they didn't defeat him like she did? He blinked out of existence, but then he's back? The films are all over the place when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like you can't just completely question all of it, but anyway. All right, guys. I did not expect to talk about it for that long. I really felt like that was going to be a quicker one than it was. But it's fucking Nightmare on Elm Street. I guess how couldn't I talk about it? I'm sure I forgot about a few things too. But yeah, freaking Freddy is great in this. Everybody. There's some poor acting here and there. Heather Langenkamp has some moments that are fairly rough. But, you know, overall, it's just such a cool ass movie. It doesn't really matter in those moments. You just kind of accept them for how they are. I'm really looking forward to watching 3 again. I haven't seen it in a while and see if she's, I don't know, upped her game a little bit more in that. Anyway, guys, I've watched 2 since, so I'm going to just head on right over to there. All right.